As so many of us have started early voting across the country, data from CNN's Harry Enton shows that Trump is losing support with one of his most reliable demographics. And that demo is non-college educated white voters. According to Enton, Trump carried this group by 33 points back in 2016. That level of support dropped to just 31 points in 2020, and now heading into November, the support has dropped further to just 27 points.
When we talk about Donald Trump, from the beginning of Donald Trump as a political figure, non-college white voters who did not go to college have been one of his key demographics.
It's been a key demographic for him. It's been his base. And this is what's so interesting, because we've seen so many groups this year moving in Donald Trump's direction. So you would think his core group, his base of support, would be doing the same. But in fact, it's moving a little bit away from him. So this is Trump's margin with non-college white voters. Unlike most voting blocs, this group is not moving towards him. It's actually moving slightly away. So you go back 8 years ago, he won him by 33. You go back 4 years ago, he won him by 31. Now what we look is we see that in the latest average of polls, he's only up by 27.
So while Trump may have been making gains with demographics where Harris has been losing support, black men, for example, Harris is picking up support with this giant voting bloc. He goes on to point out that in those particular battleground states, Trump was up by 25 points in 2016, and now he is up by just 19 points. So he's still technically leading, but Harris still has a shot of winning in these states because non-college white voters make up such a significant part of the electorate, 40% in the US and over 50% in those battleground states. Those shifts can have significant consequences when considering millions of voters.
So what are your thoughts on the election?
What are my thoughts on what?
On the election.
Ain't much to think about it.
Well, who are you going to vote for?
The right person.
Well, who do you think the right person
It won't
is?
be Donald Trump.
Okay, tell me why.
Last time you saw him talking, did you watch his lips? Were they moving? He's lying.
But Trump doesn't seem to be making any real efforts to win back the support that he has lost and is losing. He's been running a gamut of political stunts instead, talking about men's packages and serving French fries at a McDonald's. His surrogates have been doing the actual work, it seems, with Lara Trump making an appearance on The Breakfast Club, where she was laughed at for claiming Trump is not a racist. Fun fact, a lot of racist people do not self-identify as racist people, especially when those people are trying to win a presidential election in a democratic nation.
Would you rather have the black president or the white president who got $1.7 billion off the price? I think they want the white guy right now.
And Harris has been making her own rounds, sitting down for interviews and engaging with audiences that don't typically get much exposure to Democratic candidates. She had her interview with Bret Baier on Fox News, and despite the fact that Republicans have predictably decided that she bombed the interview, it nevertheless allowed her to speak to an audience who would have only ever heard her worst cherry-picked snippets of her speeches on social media or on Fox News through the lens of pundits who have already told them how they're supposed to feel about her. Even Bret Baier has admitted that the interview could have gone better for him. Harris also sat down for the traditional 60 Minutes interview, an interview that Trump refuses to do. Instead, he's on his latest conspiracy theory that 60 Minutes used deceptive editing tricks to make Harris look and sound better than she actually does, even threatening to sue CBS over the interview. He also wants the FCC to revoke CBS's broadcast license because he doesn't like the network. So much for free speech and free press. But all of his victimhood is really just a thinly veiled insecurity. The more he rails against the interview, the more he's effectively admitting that the interview went well for her. Anyway, maybe it's too late for him to win back any of that lost support. As of me recording this, we are exactly 2 weeks out from the election, so I would hope by now that most people know who they're voting for if they haven't already voted. So between now and November 5th, we are going to see all kinds of pundits predicting how states are going to vote. We're going to be hit with exit poll results. We're going to be told that this state is going for this candidate, which may or may not turn out to be the case. But ultimately, we all still have to do our part to contribute to the actual overall results, whether that means voting for a particular candidate or strategically exercising your right to abstain from voting at all. But regardless of how you feel about our presidential candidates, just a friendly reminder that there are other people on your ballot. You've got to vote for your state and local leaders because arguably the people who win those elections will have a more directly felt impact on your everyday life and your community. Here in Texas, we've got a contentious race for Senator. Ted Cruz, the Republican incumbent, is up against Colin Allred, the Democratic challenger. And I know I've spoken about this race at length before, but in a recent development, the Dallas Morning News, the state's most circulated newspaper, has endorsed Colin Allred for senator. Allred has already been endorsed by the Houston Chronicle, the San Antonio Express News, and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. That last one is perhaps the most surprising because of all of those cities, Fort Worth is the only one that typically votes red. Among the reasons as to why the paper declined to endorse Cruz were his demonstrated track record of hyperpartisanship, despite his very recent claims that he's actually quite bipartisan. Conversely, Allred, who currently serves in the House, has been twice named the most bipartisan member of Congress. The paper also cited Ted Cruz's support for and involvement in the attempt to overturn the 2020 election results. The paper said that while he could have supported the peaceful transition of power, he instead was the first senator to rise in objection to certifying the electoral vote and one of just 6 to do so. His actions were a catalyst for what became one of the worst days in our nation's history. Allred had a viral moment from his debate with Cruz regarding January 6th. I don't think most voters realize that Allred was there at the Capitol that day. Here's what he had to say. "I was on the House floor when we went through the votes. I remember when you objected to the results in Arizona. I remember when they told us to reach under our seats for these gas masks I didn't know we had because they had deployed tear gas in the rotunda. The officers locked all the doors. We barred the doors that the president walks through to deliver the State of the Union with furniture that we usually use to hold paper. I took off my suit jacket and I was prepared to defend the House floor from the mob. At the same time, after he'd gone around the country lying about the election, after he'd been the architect of the attempt to overthrow that election, when the mob came, Senator Cruz was hiding in a supply closet. This election is his accountability. You cannot just be patriotic when your side wins. To Texans everywhere, do not put Ted Cruz back in a position of authority because he's done it once, he'll do it again." All right, and I will just leave it there. That's it for me. And if you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.